Baeden Faint was born in South Australia and currently calls the New South Wales town of Cobar home. He has just released his debut single, Hometown Fantasy, and it does not sound like the work of a newcomer. So I'm sure there are some stories there, which I'm going to ask him about, and a few other things. Hello, Baeden.
G'day, how we going?
I'm very well, thank you. And how is Cobar?
Yeah, not too bad. Didn't quite get to 40 today, I don't reckon.
So just a mild day for you.
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad at all.
And it's mainly a dry heat.
Yeah, would do. Although last couple of weeks, there's been a couple uncharacteristically humid days and not enough wind. See, everyone's surprised. Bloody, what's this bloody stuff falling from the sky? You see?
Because yes, I would imagine there's not as much rainfall there perhaps as the farmers would like.
No. Well, depends where you live. It could flood you out and trap you, or you could be cheering. Depends.
That's true. Now, I'm not going to start asking you about music because you have quite an interesting background that I think is music adjacent, which is about
Yeah.
sport. So you played a lot of sport growing up, and I tend to think there are correlations between playing sport and learning an instrument, for example. Although you liked team sports and now you're a solo artist, so I find that interesting.
Well, see, well, I guess every kid in the country town bloody does all this. Well, do every sport you can really, and I was pretty well the same. Mum was a bit of gun at hockey, so we did a fair bit of that. And Pop used to play for bloody Parramatta back in the day, so I naturally played a bit of footy and all that. But I think it ended up taking over the karate and the Muay Thai and all that when I was, and that sort of took over everything. So that was a bit more solo. See.
Yeah, I actually had a question about the karate, and you brought it up. So I will ask it now. Now you have a black belt, I understand.
Yeah, found one of those. Yep, it wasn't leather; it was cotton. This one, but
Found one. Didn't earn
it was
it,
pretty.
found it.
Oh yeah, just found it. No, it was pretty wild old experience. Yeah, a few days and a fair few bruises, and battered. Loved it. It was awesome. I ended up starting teaching and all that before I left town, and yeah, it took up a fair bit of my life. I think probably started as similar times I started guitar.
Yeah, interesting. And you just mentioned Muay Thai as well. So you are a kickboxer.
Yeah, a little bit of everything I could, and tried a bit of judo out. And it's all good. Bit of wrestling, bit of fighting, kicking, and yeah.
So given that you try to like, so judo, also a martial art, karate
Yeah.
obviously was the one you stuck with the most. So what's better about karate over judo?
Oh, I don't know. I was pretty all right kicking people in the head every now and then, so I did like that part. Yeah, striking, punching, kicking, carrying on's pretty slightly easier, I'd reckon, than the grappling and tossing. I don't know, it's pretty satisfying to slap some pads or you know, go and trade some punches. Very satisfying.
I'm quite fond of saying that I think humans need to whack things on a
Oh
regular
yeah,
basis.
oh yeah. It was a bloody good out.
Yeah, I think it's, it just in terms of managing stress and all those sorts of things, if it were more socially acceptable to whack stuff just as you're walking along the street, just a few, punching bags set up on a street corner, a bit of a whack, everyone's a
Yeah,
little less aggro.
well, that's what we used to do back in the day. I mean, I had mates would go and study for school. We're up till 5 o'clock watching videos, and we'd go and train at 5 o'clock in the morning, go for a run, go punch some trees, and just wander around. Yeah.
Punch some
No one
trees.
could see us,
Yeah.
so they didn't think we were bloody crazy. That was good.
Uh, well, as you mentioned punching trees, I have to ask, is that how you got two broken hands?
There was a cinder block involved. Um, one broken hand, I busted a fair few times, and I thought you got to do a few demonstrations, see to grade through the black belts and things. And I thought everyone just likes to see things break because I broke a few pretty sizable ice blocks one time, and they're all cheering about that. So
Yeah.
I thought, oh, let's just break a heap of things. And I went, oh, we'll go find this cinder block. Yeah, I wandered in with one of my hands at a boxing match in uh, Orange it was.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I was, oh, hey, how you going? There's a few people there, training with over the years. And, oh, what'd you do to your hand? Oh, yeah, bloody cinder block. It was a bit tough, wasn't it? Yeah, went and iced me hand with a schooner at the pub afterwards, and I think someone jammed a pool cue in it. So it bent it up a little bit, made it worse for wear. But they said, oh, yeah, with that, the fake concrete. I'm like, oh, well, no one told me it was fake concrete. Yeah. The
Uh, sorry, go on.
Oh, I was going to say just the other one was a bit less. We were just wrestling around, I think, in Queensland, and your pinky just you probably see it just doesn't quite, which is bad for a fretting hand. It doesn't stretch.
Mm,
uh, but yeah, so that one was actually proper wrestling. Um, Broken, twisted, just trying to jam it back in, and
right.
yeah, it wasn't just dislocated, obviously.
And now it's super flexible. Have a look at you.
Oh yeah, flexible, turn in the wrong direction, bit
Yeah.
khaki.
At the time you did these things to your hands, were you already a guitarist?
Yeah. So by that stage, see, through through high school and that, I'd been doing the guitar, and I was a little bit handy, doing the finger picking and all that sort of stuff. But it faded off a little bit afterwards, for a few reasons here and there. But just sort of fell to the wayside after school, and you go and do other things, and
Hmm.
yeah, just sort of dropped off. So I wasn't too concerned about guitar at that stage. Yeah.
So the timing was actually quite good for you to break your hands because
Yeah, had no
you picked
important
the
things going on. Yeah.
guitar. Now, I believe there was one song in particular that sparked your interest in music, and it was Old Man Emu by John Williamson. What was it about that song, and how old were you?
I I I've been struggling to figure out what age I was, but I just remember you've got that little snippet in your mind,
Hmm.
of something that's happened, and I remember because that was my first ute was Pop's old AU 1 tonner, and they had the CD player and tape deck and everything in it, sort of thing, and that was in there, and I just remember it must have been foggy. I could have been 5, I could have been 10. But yeah, Old Man Emu off that Humble Beginnings album.
Hmm. And once you loved that, did you just then go on a trajectory of listening to a whole lot of things?
Yeah, there was a few. I mean, and Dad had staples. We had Garth Brooks, Alan Jackson, Nakadaka, Nickelback. Like, had a decent spread of um, music sort of around there. But what really sparked it was sort of my mate. Mate had a bit of a place. He was living with his pop with the band shed sort of thing, and heaps of guitarists went through there, young and old, like, all just musos. It was a great sort of environment. That sort of really kicked it. I mean, the early days there was a bit of what do you call Pete Murray. I remember my cousin from Molong come around and had a little book, and they're like, "Oh, why don't you try singing?" Oh, I didn't know you could do that. Funnily enough, you can sing while playing the guitar. Don't know
Well,
how well.
it is a combination of skills that not everyone has, but
Yeah,
you clearly do. So when you started singing, did you think, oh, this is all right, I can keep doing this?
yeah, it wasn't too bad. It was a fair bit of pressure off one of my mates. It's like, oh yeah, just get on stage, just do it. I play guitar. I don't sing, but I'm glad I did. Definitely opened a few little opportunities here and there.
So when did you start performing properly, not being pressured by your mates to do so?
Well, I mean, through through school and sort of a little bit after, there was sort of like a bit of an open mic in town, EJ's Musos it was, and you sort of have all the bands or little solo things, and me and a few mates got up, play guitars, and again, not a great deal of singing on my end, but a couple little school school things, nothing major. I only really picked it up once I left town and left relationship, left everything behind, and sort of that was what I had because I had no sort of friends or family around. So
Mhm.
I sort of, let's get back to what I do, and yeah, picked it all back up again proper.
Yeah, right. So was it almost like because you didn't have all those observers who might have certain ideas about who you are as a person or who you are as a performer that you could just be free in that sense and start singing?
Yeah, pretty well. And I've always been shocking on stage. So like I still shake. It's ridiculous, but I still bloody shake. So I thought I'd once I'd moved out, got the guitar and picked up, started writing a few more songs here and there, and just wanted to get on stage. As I was basically a Slim Dusty bloody John Williamson cover band, like which I did change my tune a little bit later on, a fair bit actually. But I just started playing a few open gigs at this winery down in Tilba on the south coast,
Mm-hmm.
and I did a couple of open mics and said, "Oh, how about we pay you for this?" And so like, "Oh yeah, we could do it. It's good. It's
Yeah,
great. You give me money to do something I was doing anyway. Yeah, sweet."
yeah, fantastic. So obviously they heard you on the open mic night and thought this guy's pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. You can sing in tune every now and then at least. Like, wasn't half bad.
Enough not to drive the customers away.
Yeah.
So you said you were doing a bit of writing. When did you start writing songs?
I mean, I did write a song in high school or a couple, but being of that age, of course, it's only about one thing, girls. Don't know if it's changed heaps, but a few more experiences thrown in there. But yeah, there was a couple of songs about girls in primary school, but when I got stuck right back into the writing, it was just a mass of everything, looking back on life and that sort of thing. Um, Obviously, yeah, 4 years after school down the track sort of thing.
Mhm. Because as I said at the top, Hometown Fantasy, which is your debut single, it does not sound like the work of a beginner. So that's why I wanted to ask, because I was thinking you had to have written quite a few songs before you got to this one. So I'm wondering why you decided this would be the one that you recorded and released first.
Well, it was probably that was probably when I went into the studio with Garth. That was probably one of the later songs written, although it's more like the timeline in terms of sort of also the first.
Right.
So it was, and mind you, that was written a year, maybe two ago.
Okay.
Um, yeah, can't quite remember the timeline, but yeah, sort of wanted to release it first because um, it was, I don't know, there's something about it. It wasn't 100% the same vein as they're all completely different. Every song I've done, you know, they're different in their own sort of ways. But that one was sort of I don't know, it just sort of made its way to be that's going to be the first release, and it's got the story behind it. It's like an origin story. It's got the timeline. Like this will be it, see how it goes. Didn't think
Yeah.
it would go anywhere, but it's gone a couple of places. So.
Yeah, and it's only just out at the time we're speaking. So I actually did have the phrase origin story in mind when I was asking the question. So could you tell us the story behind the song and why it makes a good origin story for you?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's always hard when anyone asks you what it's about because, as you might know, it's there, there's a couple verses left out, but essentially like uh, it is about the time before and bridging on picking back up the guitar again,
Right.
and it's sort of about a relationship where I mean it had all its good parts, sure, um, especially lines like saying hindsight's a myth and that sort of thing. Like hindsight's 2020, you're supposed to know. But at 3 o'clock in the morning, writing the song, bottle of tawny deep, and sitting with nothing but time for thinking, it's you sort of forget all the bad parts, and you only remember the good feeling and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of like just missing that.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole song's basically sort of a to and fro of oh, this was good, but it needed to happen. I
Right.
needed to leave this, and needed to leave the relationship, needed to leave the town, do all that to figure out myself,
Hmm.
um, figuring out myself on my own, and all that sort of stuff. And that's sort of what it's like. I'm terrible at explaining it, but
Not at all. And I
yeah,
also think it's interesting the use of the word fantasy because that could mean either like it's the dream that you want to have, or it could mean the delusion you had. Like this was a fantasy of the life I thought I would have.
yeah, exactly right. And that's pretty well how I sort of read it. It was sort of the double. You
Hmm.
know, you were the biggest mistake or things like that. Like, yeah, ignorance is bliss, but you're still ignorant.
Yeah.
And the hometown fantasies pretty well like, yeah, the pipe dream, also like that white picket fence
Hmm.
dream.
Hmm. Yeah.
Kids.
Which suits some people, but not others.
It does, and I don't think it's what I really wanted. Took me
Now
a
you,
while to figure.
yeah, and it's and I guess art is a way of figuring it out as well. So maybe in the writing of the song, there were some things you could sort out.
Yeah, yeah, exactly right. And that's how I write all these songs. Like, I don't. I think that's what Garth like. I think that's why Garth bloody called me in the beginning, because he and going through all the songs, like, you're not writing songs for people. You just write songs for yourself, and that's sort of what it is. Because when I moved away, it happened to be at the time of the bushfires and that, and I was just working. It was sort of like a very isolated time, and it was that's sort of, a lot of them are me working through stuff. Like, some of them sort of sound really like just a conversation with myself, and
Mhm.
that one's not any different. Just working it out.
Yeah, and that's I think it's fine for a writer to have a conversation with themselves because in being specific about things as you have been, that actually connects with people much more than if you're just trying to be vague and if you're trying to appeal to the biggest mass of people you could, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Now you said you left out a couple of verses. Was that for reasons of length or just because when you went to record them you thought, oh no, too specific, maybe?
No, it was pretty much only reasons for length. There was a bit more to the story, but I feel like we captured the whole story with the verses were there. But I was sort of pushed to, you know, um, make it shorter. So, you know, people want to put it on radio and things like that, which it has. So, I mean, make it just that tiny bit shorter.
Yeah, it's radio likes a shorter song. Now I'm guessing the Garth you're referring to is Garth Porter.
Yeah, yeah.
So how did he come to hear your music?
Well, as I said before, getting a bit dry. As I said before, I was playing those open mics, turned into gigs and that sort of thing. And at that same winery, they sort of held like it's a beautiful place, by the way. They've got like this little curry shack just overlooking the lake and that sort of thing. And they got some bloody good tawny port there, actually. So I was pretty satisfied, and ended up in a bit of a like mini little music festival. Had a few people playing for the day. Um, and one of the people who was also playing, Melanie Hornsel.
Hmm.
Um, I think she might have went up to the studio one time, and she actually told him, said, "Oh, hey, look at this bloke, and he's pretty good. Like, it's great." And she said, "Oh, I'll pass the information on, and oh, you should ring this bloke." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, 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 righto." Like, I'm able in times right, like, nah, yeah, we'll see how it goes. And then he just rang me out of the blue one day and had a big long yarn and said, "Oh, I like what you're doing. Like, you want to come in and do something with it?" I'm like, "Oh, oh, not right now. Oh, maybe down the track, Like, I was sort of umming and ahhing. I got to the stage where I was just like, "Nah, bugger this. I mean, you got to do it once at least." I mean, and it was amazing. Like, just a completely different experience. Like, waking up top of the studio, looking around, you see all the bloody gold and platinum bloody records hanging around on the pool table, just sleeping on a lounge upstairs. And it was just an awesome experience, and I'm very glad I did it. But yeah, it was sort of just dumb luck, really. I
Well,
fell
yeah,
in.
I think luck can happen, but you've got to be ready for it, right? And obviously, you
Yeah,
had the songs and you've been performing. And I also, from what I understand, Rod McCormack was also in that studio.
yeah, and he was a big player of. When it came to, he's like, oh yeah, we'll get a band behind you. I'm like, oh, right, yep, righto, no worries, we'll do this. This is something we've never done before, but we'll do it. Um, and one of the big sort of cruxes of, oh, when should we do it? When can we get in? Was making sure could get Rod along, because I love Rod stuff. Like
Hmm.
he's a bloody awesome. Well, he's a bloody awesome guitarist. Anything with strings,
Hmm.
banjo, mandolin,
Yeah, right.
you know, just amazing. So I was like, I've got to work with this guy. He's so cool.
And so when you came to the studio, this was to record the EP, which is due for release later this year sometime. So you recorded
Yeah.
5 tracks. I imagine it was a bit of a baptism by fire because, as you said, you hadn't played with a band before. You're
Oh
suddenly in a
yeah.
studio going,
Oh yeah, exactly right. And I was very taken about. I took a mate in. He'd done a couple of the songs on guitar. He'd sent a few riffs, a few chord progressions of that, and I'd come around and we'd have a jam, and I'd throw some lyrics on it. And so he'd come around, and I think he ended up playing all the guitar
oh,
on the album Bar Hometown Fantasy. Uh, because we went and we're all separated. We played it all live,
yeah,
and just we were just in our little rooms,
right.
looking across through the windows at each other. Um, yeah, wild experience. But yeah, trial by fire is like, oh, it seems pretty rushed, but like we'll get it all out in one day, and it's real hard for you to get to Sydney and all this. So
Hmm.
do the work while we're here, and got stuck in. Yeah, it was trial by fire by all means, and I was pretty crook actually.
Oh, no.
Um, Pretty crook actually, because you go to the big smoke, you might go and visit the locals, local watering holes. I did end up a bit crook recording it and that, so I didn't know how it was going to turn out.
I'm sure it just gave a bit of, a bit of an edge to your voice,
Oh yeah,
certain
yeah,
quality.
yeah, a bit of character about it.
That's the word, character.
Yeah,
Now you also made a video for Hometown Fantasy and you worked with Jerry Manette. And given that, you were in the studio for the first time, you've also made your first ever music video. So how was that experience?
yeah. Well, that was another thing. Like Garth was like, "Oh, yeah, you're going to do a music video." I'm like, "Oh, I don't need that. Just throw it out there. So I'll listen to it. No. Oh, it'd be good. Righto, righto. So, and I caught up Jeremy. He's bloody awesome. Like, pretty decent mates with him at the moment. Like, he's he's bloody fantastic. And the way he described it, like, I think it's one of his favorite videos he's done. Um, and he said, "Oh, we're not doing, hear truck, see truck. Just tell the story, And I said, righto. So we'll tell this story with, we'll make it a bit like a half little swaggy sort of thing. And I was just amazed. We went out to a mate's property, and I caught up for him for a beer. He was a bit standoffish for the beer. He said, "Oh, like, oh, I'm finishing work. I've got 4 hours till I'm getting where you are," because it was like we had to find a midway point between
Right.
Newey and Cobar. So we found it and went out to the mate's place. Stopped in for a beer. He said, "Oh, you know what? I can stick around. The beers out here are actually pretty cheap." So, yep, that bloody oath. So we had a few beers and had a good talk. Went through all the video. And yeah, come out the next day, and we just went straight through the whole thing and all day, and sat down at the end of it. Like, oh, this will be pretty good. One day, like, I don't know how it'll go. We sat down and we had the big fire in the background. Like, had our little fire by the dam by the house there in the video, if you've seen. But the boys had gotten the petrol in the back paddock and their big pile of sticks over there, giving a bit more light. So it's like, oh, I want to join their fire looks better than mine. I don't know about this. we ended up joining, just playing guitar and having a few drinks, having a bit of tucker around with friends. It was bloody. It was just a great experience. And the next day after he gets home, he's like, "Oh, it's done. Righto, show
Yeah.
us." And I was blown away. I thought it's made me just love the song so much more than if it was just the recording, And it told the story, and it wasn't, other than me head, couldn't change that. But it just did a real good job of connecting the lyrics
Mm.
and connecting the story and the emotion behind it in a visual way as well.
Hmm.
Like, yeah, I was very, very impressed with that. I was blown away, actually. Yeah.
It is a really poignant piece of work, actually, that video. And
Yeah.
I think it's another reason why when I heard the song and then saw the video, I thought, well, yeah, this is not the sort of thing I'd expect from someone who's releasing their very first song. Also, because to be in that video, you have to embody a character almost. And even if the character's you still got to play a role
Yeah,
that's
play
maybe not you.
me in that headspace over there. Like, I'm pretty smiley and sort of person most of the time. To get back into that emotion of those times when I'm writing the songs, yeah, it was different. I don't know if I did it justice, but
Oh, no,
yeah,
I think it's a great video. Now that the song's out in the world, are you feeling like there's that process of you've held your story close and now you've let it go and it's for other people to interpret?
yeah, it's pretty wild. But I mean, even if they don't, I mean, as you said, it's a debut album. It's my first crack at this. Even if they don't take 100% of my story,
Hmm.
like if they can relate part of it or more, even all of it, if they can relate that to a similar experience they've had or a similar feeling, you know,
Hmm.
breaking away from that white picket fence dream or you know that sort of thing. That's awesome, and I love that. Not playing so much for people. It's an odd feeling when people are like, "Oh yeah, man, like this is what I'm feeling like." Those lyrics, yeah, that was me like last year or this and that. That's actually awesome. That's yeah.
It
So it's
is.
sort of scary getting yourself out there, but at the same time, it's real good when you get sort of feedback like that.
So you've recorded these 5 songs. I would imagine that you have other songs you've written. Are you a songwriter who just keeps writing when the ideas come to you, or do you just set aside some time every now and again to write?
Nah, I'm not a set asider. I'm not a set asider. I yeah, nah. If I sat down and write a song now, wouldn't have
Right.
at all. Um, I just wrote another song last weekend. I was pretty proud of. And it was a chance meeting of somebody and a story of theirs, sort of what we got up to. Um, but I was a little bit distracted for a second, and I heard me mate in the lounge room. I was staying over at his. There was races on sea, and I was doing something else, and I heard him in the lounge room on the banjo.
Right.
Like, oh, hang on, raced out there. He's picked back up the guitar. That riff, play that right now. Let's go, righto. Sung. We're like, this is awesome. This is so that inspiration there, but also um, like when me and him were working together, that's
Mhm.
what it is. It's like he's plays up. Hang on, go back to that. That's cool. Um, but a lot of the time, it's mentioned in that song, like sitting on a swing at 3 a.m. You know,
Mhm.
that's exactly what I was doing. I was sitting on a swing. I was out the front of Pops and sipping on tawny, smoking, drinking, and just alone with me thoughts, overthinking a bit much. But I've written songs, fair bit of driving out here, fair bit of country to cover.
Mhm.
Um, on the road, I'll do, and I'll sort of I'll write songs while I'm driving because there's a lot of driving. I think I racked up like 80,000 k's last year or something stupid, and that was just working. Um,
Yeah. I think it
But
is a
yeah,
feature of life in the bush that even going down the road to the shops is a long drive.
yeah, where's down the road, eh?
Yeah, that's true. So when you are writing songs in the car, do you pull over and record them in a voice memo, or do you just keep singing them to yourself till you get to a place where you can do that?
I absolutely responsibly pull over every time I have an idea and jot them down.
That's
And
a wonderful answer.
but or as the words, if there's just words, I'll jot them down on notes or something like that. But if I get the words and I start to think of maybe a melody or something, I'll send it through to me mate, just to just so there's like a catalogue of, oh, I had this idea for a chorus and this sort of where I want the melody to go. Oh, maybe you'll figure out some guitar, or maybe I'll figure out some guitar, but something to revisit later. So sort of a fair bit of me just writing words down on the road because no time to sit down with the guitar
Mhm,
uh, till later.
mhm.
Or the other night, like I was sitting down, I was just staring up through the trees at the stars, thinking about a couple of things that were going on, and yeah, I just grabbed the guitar and sat down with it and grabbed the harmonica and did it that way. So it's sort of those are pretty well the three ways. It's late at night having a drink or contemplating or on the road or a little jam session.
So when you say you write them down, do you actually write them down with a pen or a pencil, old-fashioned style?
It's really hard to drive with a pen and a pencil and
Oh,
a
no, I know.
pad.
It's just you and so you're saying I write them down. So don't tell me you actually like put them down on paper. Who does that anymore?
And which is actually to my detriment because I'm a big I've got a strained relationship with technology at times, and it'd be much better if I just wrote it down on a piece of paper. I'd have access to that, like trying to scroll through all my notes and find, oh, this is a verse I wrote here, or this is a oh, better finish writing this song, shouldn't I?
Yeah. Well, maybe this is the time to start. Take a pen and paper with you in the car. Who knows?
Exactly right. Exactly right.
Well, Baden, I'm looking forward to hearing the rest of the songs on that EP. I imagine you have a release schedule in mind. You're going to roll them out and then release the EP after all 5 songs have come out.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think the idea is to do a couple and then release the EP, but I've also got another EP's worth of songs written and
Right.
um, mostly done, sort of ready to go. So hopefully I can also track back to the studio if Garth will have me and keep it coming.
Yeah.
Might be an album.
That's right. It sounds like Garth probably would have you back just quietly, just from what you said. But I will leave you to your evening now. It's been a great pleasure to talk to you. The song is Hometown Fantasy. You are Baeden Faint. Baden, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.